Hi, I'm Steve Garrett. I'd like to take a few minutes to give you a couple of examples, actually 9 examples, of policies that you may want to use. Now, these are not necessarily policies that I'm suggesting you have to use. I'm certainly not suggesting that these are the wordings of the policies that your club should use. I'm just giving you some examples. And let's take a look at a few examples of things that we might try. My first example is a policy about a club social events. Social events are a very important part of Rotary. They develop fellowship, and developing fellowship develops acquaintances, and acquaintances is the basis of how we get things done. So my particular policy that I'm recommending here, let's just go through it, one step at a time. Um, First of all, is the expectation is to encourage the fellowship. This club will have a social event once a month. Now, you don't have to be once a month. It could be once a year, once a week, once a quarter. But it's just expectation that to develop fellowship, this club will have a social event. Ta-da. The second thing is that the board of directors is authorizing the president of the club to appoint a chairman of a social committee and a chairman of the social committee to appoint members of a social committee. And then he talks about authorization to plan a social meeting once a month, once a quarter, or whenever it is that they want to do. Authorize the president to go dark one meeting a month when they have the social event. Those are all authorizations, and that's the second part of a policy. The third part is that the policy describes what the limitations are. And in the case of this one, it's that the social events are supposed to be self-funding. Unless the board of directors specifies money for social events, it's a self-funding activity. That's a limitation on the committee. And then the fourth part of it is to say, look, we want to know what it is that's going on. We want you to tell us about the successes, the failures of this program, and please get back to us and tell us about that. There's a lot of other kinds of policies that you have. I talk about a policy that we're going to have an Interact Club, and that you're going to appoint a committee for the Interact Club, and that the Interclub Club is going to be at just the high schools. It's going to be a community-based Interact Club. It's going to be for all of the high schools, public and private. And maybe you're going to allow that the budget is going to budget for some money for this thing, because budget is policy, and that we want the officers and the directors of the Interact Club to come to our regular meetings and interact with us. And so those are all things that you have in here: the expectation, the authorization, the limitation, and of course, at the end, the communication. We want to know what's going on with our Interact Club. You might have a policy about the Rotary Foundation and say, we want to give money to the Rotary Foundation. We want to encourage every member every year. We want to encourage members to do direct investment or direct contributions. Sign up for $20 a month or whatever it is you want. And we want you to not go beyond this authorization. We don't want you to use the recognition points that the club has beyond what the club board of directors has authorized you to do. And we want you to communicate with us. And, then there's another policy might be to get people to come to the weekly meetings. And so we're going to appoint a program committee, and we want the program committee to have some good programs, the kind of programs that people want to come see. And we also want the program committee to not spend money. It's not budgeted for it. And we want them to report back to us and tell us what's going on. You might have a policy about membership development, and tell the membership development committee that their goal is to increase to replace the members that you lose. So you got to get 10% new members every year, and we'd like to get 10% more members over and above that. And we don't want you to spend any money doing this beyond what we budget for you to do. And we want to make sure clubs that just get everybody in one industry, that's not the purpose of this whole thing. So we don't want you to concentrate. So that's a limitation. And, that's what you're in the business of doing, is authorizing and empowering and directing and limiting, and get a report back. You might have a policy about RILA, that this club will participate in RILA, that the president will will recruit a RILA chairman. The RILA chairman will get a committee. We'll go out and find some good kids to go to RILA. And we're going to encourage our Rotarians to participate in RILA. And don't spend any money over and above what is budgeted. And keep us informed. Now, maybe it's not once a month at the board meeting, because RILA only takes place for a few months. So maybe the 3 months prior to RILA, or maybe the month after RILA. We want you to report back to the board of directors. Another one might be, one policy might have to do with raising money. You get a fundraising committee. You tell the fundraising committee, hey, we want you to have one big fundraising event or a lot of fundraising events. And I like a policy where you say, we want you to raise at least as much money outside of the club as you're raising from inside of the club. Find an activity where we can raise money from the community at large. And don't do this, don't do that. Casino night happens to be a bad idea in some states. So put your limitations in there. Tell your committee what limited, and we want you to report back. We want you to let know what's going on. The same type of thing with the fundraising committee, except for the investment committee. I like to see clubs raise more money every year than they spend. I like to see clubs start building up a little bit of an endowment. But once you start building up an endowment, you have got to have an investment policy. It's not a question of should you have an investment policy. If you go to a investment advisor, just happens to be what I've been doing for 50 years. If you go to an investment advisor, say, I want to open an account for an endowment for my Rotary Club, the investment advisor, unless they're stupid or don't want to comply with the laws, they were going to say to you, I need an investment policy statement from your governing authority. And so your board should have an investment policy statement. And again, go back. You gotta take every one of these policies and on an occasional, if not annual basis, you got to go back and reevaluate them. Are these the right policies that we want to have? You change your board every year. Every board should evaluate the old policies and see if there's any policies that you need to change. And let's document these things. Let's have all of the policies that we write in writing where people can find them. And I used the example in a prior video that Rotary International has a code of policy. It happens to be like 600-700 pages long. You could download it in PDF. You could look, but it gives you some certainty as to what the policies of the organization are without having to go to the board of directors and ask them every time, can we do this? Can we do that? Can we do this? Give them some guidelines, give them some policies. Policy governance. Yes, I feel strongly about this. Yes, I've been a little bit of a pontificator, but it's important. It's more important than probably anything I've talked about. So thank you for listening to me rant and rave a little bit more. I'm Steve Garrett.